Welcome back. My second guest is Ed Dechert, Assessment Coordinator with the Office of Institutional Research and Effectiveness here at Mississippi State. Ed, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I understand you recently returned from leading a study abroad program with engineering students in Europe. Why don't you tell us about that trip?
Sure. The class is technical writing for engineers, and all the engineering majors here at State have to take it. And so I guess basically the deal was it was a regular 5-week summer class with 18 engineering students from here in Starkville, and we just did the class in Munich. So the class itself is mostly writing. They do some oral communication, so they do a couple presentations, a handful of documents, and a lot of in-class writing and communication exercises. The part about it that is, I guess, unique to the fact that we did it in Munich was that we changed some of these assignments to actually fit in with the fact that we were in Germany and in Munich specifically. So we did a few presentations that we wouldn't have technically done, or we wouldn't have done here in Starkville. We did a few, I guess, field trips, you might call them, a couple of them were actually related to engineering. A couple of them were more cultural type experiences. We went to the Dachau Holocaust Memorial, which is right outside of Munich. We took a bike tour around Munich, so all 18 of us got on bikes and with a tour guide rode around Munich, and we did that the first day that everybody was there. And so it was good because we got to see a lot of Munich, and they got to sort of get familiar with how the city works and see some things that they might want to go back to and see later on. In terms of the engineering field trips or group excursions, whatever we want to call them, we went to one of the big breweries in Munich, which brewing is a big industry in Germany and especially in Munich. So we went to one of the big breweries and we got to do a real intensive tour through all the different parts of the brewery and see how the beer is manufactured, how it's packaged, how they run all of these systems that surprisingly were pretty automated. And then the other group tour that we went that was engineering related is we went to the BMW Museum and BMW World, I think they call it. So we got to do a pretty also intensive, about a 2-hour-long tour of the BMW factory from the point where they are stamping out the metal frames to getting all of that spot welded, painting, and on through the assembly line and where they actually do testing. And that was one of my favorite things that we did. And I think the students tended to like it too. They had a lot of questions, and I think they enjoyed the experience a pretty good bit.
So thinking about it overall, I mean, what does a study abroad program like this provide for students? What would you say? What do they get out of it?
Well, I think they get a lot of different things out of it. And it's funny enough, at the end of the class, one of the things that I had the students do, actually I did at the beginning of the class and at the end, I had them talk about what they wanted to get out of the class, and in terms of the actual class, but then in terms of being in Munich. And at the end, we sort of revisited. So I asked them to kind of look back on the 5 weeks that you spent. What did you feel like you got out of the class? How is that going to be useful to you? And specifically, what do you think you got out of being here in Munich? And some of the responses, a lot of people said that, well, it sort of put me out of my comfort zone. And so, I've never really done a lot of traveling. A lot of the students had never been abroad before. And none of them had been to Germany before, or very few of them had been to Germany before. So I think it got them to sort of get out of their comfort zone and deal with situations and takes, a class they would have taken here in an unfamiliar setting. So things like public transportation, was one of the things that they had to figure out. I think a couple of the other students mentioned things that were related to actual engineering in Germany, and the fact there was one civil engineer that mentioned that it was really nice to see how public transportation worked, because the transportation system in Munich was fairly easy to use and on time. I mean, Germans have a reputation for being on time and following the rules, and that was true. And so he was like, it was really good to see as a civil engineer how their public transportation worked and how well it worked. I think there was another student that had specific, they like specific things about seeing the way efficiency works in Germany, from the way the automation works in some of the factories that we went to, but then also in terms of things like recycling. They recycle everything, and so they're very much aware of how things can work more efficiently, that they might not be used to seeing in a place like Starkville that is a much smaller city. There's maybe less of a focus on some of the things that we saw in Munich.
So the other side of that, what do faculty get out of something like this? What did you yourself get out of this?
Well, I think a lot of things. Obviously, it's fun to go to another place you've never been to. It was interesting to go to another country and teach the class and sort of get to feel like you actually lived there. I mean, it was 5 weeks, but it was you had to do things like figure out transportation and get to places that you might not necessarily on vacation. And so that was nice, but it was also, in some ways, nice to be, the class worked differently because we were all together. We stayed at the same hotel. We did dinners and stuff together. We did on the field trips that we went to together. You don't really get that in a regular class here. And that was kind of fun to be a group, more so than you might have a chance to be in the regular semester.
Right. Well, Ed, it's been great speaking with you. Welcome back, and thanks for being here.
Thanks.
That's all we have time for today. Remember, you can follow us on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at MSU Engineering. Thanks for being with us.